All right, you can go.
Welcome everybody to the Kingston Creative Meetup. This is a very exciting meetup because we're talking about creative hubs. What are they? And how can they connect the creative community? We've all known that it feels like years, has been a change for creatives and how they work, how they operate. Tonight, we're gonna talk about a special way in which we can operate and what it will look like going forward, the Kingston Creative Hubs. Of course, before we head into our discussions, usually we have a check-in. But before that check-in, I'm gonna hand over to Catherine, and Catherine is gonna introduce a new feature that will allow all of you to interact with us a lot more. Catherine, could you tell us about that, please?
All right, hi Tavia. I invite Jordan to just bring up that welcoming page from Slido on screen. Okay, so we are introducing an interactive bit into the meetup, and this is Slido. Slido is just an interface where it helps you to make your event or meeting more engaging, has polls, Q&A, questions that we will bring up throughout the night as we discuss. You can join the discussion over there or answer the polls over there by going to slido.com and entering the code that you see there, 306-910, or you can just scan that QR code. Shortly, I'm going to drop the link in the chat and you can just use the link to go straight there. We're asking questions like, what do creatives want from a creative hub? Dimitri is going to list a bunch of things that the Kingston Creative Hub is offering. And we want to find out, which of those are you most interested in? So these will come up throughout the night. And I encourage you guys to just go on over there and join the chat. You can ask questions to the speakers. You can find out more about them, what they have going on through their various creative hubs. We're just trying to make it a little bit more interactive. So we're just testing this out and let's see how it goes. But join the chat, guys. Join the chat. Feel free to interact with us throughout the evening.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Catherine. So just to remind you guys how to access that feature, you could go to slido.com. That's slido.com, and you could enter the code 306910. And there you can have your questions. You can enter them. You can ask questions of the panelists as you go through the evening. And of course, as usual, closer to the end, we'll allow you to ask questions and we'll have a fruitful discussion about the creative hubs and what they're really about. Now, let's go into our discussion with Dimitri. Welcome, Dimitri, to our meetup. Tonight, we know that you are wearing the Kingston Creative hat. Is that so?
Yes, thank you.
So, Dimitri, tell us a little bit about, the Kingston Creative Hub. It's fairly new, we could say, for sure. How long has it been around?
We opened last year, summer last year, so just coming up on a year now. And it's a central point for creatives to meet, mingle, access different services. And thanks to our new Createch program sponsored by the IDB, we have a range of different opportunities available. Any particular you want to touch on, or should I just go through the list?
Well, as the entrepreneur development specialist, you could definitely tell us about some of the features, the business registration, accelerators, incubators. You can, give us an idea of the different services that are available through this creative hub. There are many creatives on the chat tonight, so you could go ahead and share some of those with us.
Right. Well, we all know that accessibility has always been an issue with the creative and cultural industry in Jamaica and across the Caribbean. And that's why Kingston Creative is very much, pushing the limits and supporting the entire ecosystem by adding in some value-added products and value-added programs for the whole industry's access. I'm going to talk a little bit in detail about the business and IP registration drive that we just launched on Tuesday. But just to give you a quick overview, we have about 8 different key pillars or key programs that we're going to be offering this year. That includes, business training and cultural application development. We're going to be having monthly meetups like these and the Kingston Culture Forum. We're going to be having different hackathons, such as the Hack the City Ideathon, to create solutions for problems that the country is facing directly. We're going to be setting up investment opportunities and other incentive programs and B2B meetings, so that way creatives can sell their products and services to larger corporate entities and get funding for their businesses. Another key thing is, as a community, we may know each other and we know what each other does, but from a public or international point of view, not many people know who are the key stakeholders in the CCI ecosystem. So we're creating a creative database that will be publicly accessible, so that anyone who's a member of the cultural and creative industry can sign up, so that they provide their product, their service, what it is that they do, where they can be found. And so that way those looking to partner with members of the ecosystem can go to one central place and access this.
Wow, that's very cool. I mean, and to break it down a little bit, let's say somebody who is a crafts person and they make, jewelry and that kind of thing. Would that person be, allowed to be a part of this database? We're talking about artists. Like, could you, give us a little bit more information on that?
Yeah, sure. So we're talking about artists, we're talking about craftspeople, we're talking about if you are a creator, so if you're in the culinary arts, if you're design, marketing, if you run cultural tours, if you have, CCI is so broad overall, it's hard to really define, but if you are innovative and creative in nature, and it includes, it's a design-led process, then I'd include you in the creative and cultural industry. And it's open to anyone as a direct stakeholder or supporting elements of the industry. So as I mentioned before, like you said, for instance, you are a tour operator. A tour operator might not consider themselves a creative, but you are designing this experience for your customers.
Lovely. I mean, that's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure the creatives listening in can say, wow, that's something I can be a part of. I mean, talk to us a little bit about, did you mention the incubator? I know you mentioned the hackathon, but, how can people start using some of these services that you have mentioned? They're hearing that they're there. Some may feel like they're outside. How do I get in as a creative and start accessing some of these things that you're mentioning here?
Right. So from a hands-on perspective, I mean, we definitely have the business and IP registration drive. Going to dedicate more time to that. But the accelerator, we have a business accelerator, so that those who are designers, those who are creators but may not feel as confident from a business standpoint, can join our accelerator program and get business training over a 10-week process, so that they can go global, scale internationally. We're going to be also having an incubator program, so that those who need a space to work from can come and work at the Creative Hub co-working downtown, get access to mentorship, get access to other opportunities as well. And we're putting together a summit of different business development organizations and incubators and accelerators, so that way the people in the CCI industry, those of us in the CCI industry, can access or know all of the different opportunities that are available. Separate from that, there's also the Creative Exchange program, where we're going to be allowing, or we're going to enabling creators to exchange and just get a different viewpoint, go to another country, see what the experience is like there, get more exposure, learn new things. And so that way you can, get a taste of what the creative industry is like outside of Jamaica as well. So all of this starts this month with our business and IP registration drive. We know that formalization is a major barrier for people to get access to grants, to funding, to government incentive programs. I mean, with the care package that was announced recently, many people were locked out because they weren't registered as creatives. And so we want to make sure that you can register that business or register your company. We also have a rebate program where we will be providing a rebate of up to 12,250 Jamaican dollars for your business registration. So if you go ahead and go through us, register at the Companies Office of Jamaica for your business name or your company, you can get a rebate of up to 12,250. 250 for that process. And it applies to IP as well. If you've already registered your business, but maybe you haven't copyrighted your business name, or maybe you haven't copyrighted some of the work that you've created or trademarked it, or maybe you want to, you've come up with a new process or invention and you want to patent that, you can also register that through our campaign with JIPO, and we will help to subsidize the cost at the same up to 12,250. I really want to just thank right now, of course, IDB for sponsoring this program, but as well for Companies Office of Jamaica, for Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, and we also have two business development organizations, being Sisters in Jamaica and Paramount Business Solutions, that have offered to just provide one-on-one meetings with our entrepreneurs to answer specific questions and make this process as easy as possible.
Wow, that's very, very cool. I mean, I think it gives such a different perspective to what some people may look at a co-working hub as. You know, we think, oh, just go there and work, but all of these services that really allows you to be full rounded and really just make a business out of your creativeness. So we really love it. And we really thank you very much for sharing that with us. And before we wrap, you could just tell the friends here how they can get in touch with the Kingston Creative Hub, you know, if they want to be a part of some of these services that you've mentioned. What are some contacts that they need to know?
Yeah, we have up a pop-up banner on kingstoncreative.org right now, so just check our website and check our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well for more information. We'll be running the business registration and IP registration campaign between now and July 16th, so you have to put in those applications before July 16th to be eligible for that rebate program. And we have tons of opportunities available, so to sign up as quickly as possible so we can guide you through that process.
Lovely. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Dimitri. That was a very, very fruitful update. And we look forward to talking to you later again, just to give us, you know, some perspective on creative hubs. You know, what are they? How do they work for creatives? But thank you so much for giving us that KC update. And we look forward to talking to you later on as well.
No problem.
So guys, there you have it. You've heard it. Check kingstoncreative.org. Check their Instagram pages, Kingston Creative JM, and stay tuned to all of those things that they will be launching. As usual, we have a panel who they have the knowledge and they are going to dump it on us tonight. So tonight we're talking about the creative hubs and just doing a deep dive into what these really are and how is it gonna work for us now and going into the future. And on our panel, we have Lindsay Smith, and we have a pre-recorded interview with her, and we're gonna listen to her as she gives us a global perspective on the hubs and how they add value to the creative community. So we go right to that interview with Lindsay.
And hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kingston Creative Meetup. So I'm here with Lindsay Smith, who is the Creative Economy Program Manager for the British Council. Now, Lindsay is a superstar. She is previously responsible for leading the creative economy programs in Sub-Saharan Africa and the EU and in Europe. Now, Lindsay has developed more than 60 international projects in over 20 countries in order to help to build sustainable creative communities. Previously, she was the co-founder and director of Creative Edinburgh, a creative hub for the cultural, creative, and tech sectors of Edinburgh in Scotland. Lindsay was also a partner in Smith & Matheson, a partnership of creative producers who are delivering projects, festivals, and research. Previous to this, Lindsay ran Starter 6, an enterprise training program for Nesta, and Creative Entrepreneurs Club at the Lighthouse, Scotland's Centre for Design and Architecture. Lindsay, impressive resume. We're so happy you could make time for us today. Welcome to the Kingston Creative Meetup.
Thanks so much, Andrea. Oh God, I really need to edit that bio a little bit, don't I?
No, it's perfect. It lets us all know why you're here and everything you've done. So,
thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So you know that when we founded the Kingston Creative nonprofit, we were really, really inspired by just all the literature and the research from the British Council. So we decided not just to found an art district, but to also create a creative hub in the heart of downtown Kingston. So maybe where we can start is just for our listeners, can you explain what a creative hub is?
Of course, yeah, because I suppose the term creative hub has become such a nebulous term, hasn't it? And it's defined, or its definition in a sense is different no matter who you speak to. So our definition of a creative hub is a space, whether that's virtual or physical, that bring enterprise and people together from across the creative, cultural and tech sectors. So it could be a really small collective that bring people together in a space, or it could be a really large network that brings people together through a programme of events throughout the year, or it could be a tech hub. The numbers really vary. I feel like creative hubs are like fingerprints. Their models and shapes are also different, but that's what makes them so exciting and new and unique.
Awesome. So across the landscape of all this variety of creative hubs, what are some common purposes and impact that you've seen that creative hubs always tend to have?
I think the main thing is that they act as a home for creatives. On its most basic level, they are a home. I mean, if you're a freelancer, if you work for yourself as any kind of creative discipline, you might work from home or you might work from an office on your own if you're lucky to have an office. You don't have an HR department and you certainly don't have a training budget. So you're on your own, and I think confidence is a really big issue with creatives in terms of how much they propel themselves and how successful they are in their growth. And it's been proven that if you bring people together as part of a network, it improves confidence, it improves experimentation, collaboration, connections. And so the power of a hub is kind of multifaceted. It's a space to bring people together, to connect and to be with their peers and to learn from one another, support one another, to say, I'm struggling with this, how did you get by? And it's where you share those feelings to make you feel less isolated, less alone, and we are stronger together as a kind of purpose, really, aren't we?
Definitely, definitely. So when you co-founded Creative Edinburgh, what was your experience then? Were hubs like a very familiar thing? Tell us a little bit about your experience of starting.
Yeah, I mean, probably a mix. Some people had kind of heard of the term, but I think they all thought it was a kind of luxury networking thing, or a fancy events, you know. Other people kind of thought, oh, we should be connecting with that, but we don't know how to. And then other people that thought, right, we need to connect with that. That's actually a really good resource. So it's a real mixture. I think it's still, it's particularly policymakers and funders find it difficult to understand the value of it without us telling them how they can work with us. It's almost down to creative hubs and support organisations like British Council to kind of help, I suppose, that discussion in the middle to define why creative hubs are so important and valuable. So yeah, when we started up, we were part funded by an arts organisation and a council, Edinburgh Council, and that wouldn't have been representative across the board, across the whole of Scotland. We were just really lucky that the council that supported us had foresight and really understood the kind of economic outputs that this network could feed into. So they had a report called the People, Place and Pound Economic Department report. And they felt that by giving us a small amount of money each year, we could feed in statistics from the creative economy that fed into their people part of their People, Place and Pound report. So it was actually a really nice partnership. And so they knew how to kind of work with us and support us, and they opened doors for us in many ways, and we opened doors for them as well. So yeah, it's a real mix, Andrea. I think sometimes it's our job to almost help people understand the importance of creative hubs and why people should work with them and support them, because they are just so valuable across the board.
Right. So, you've spoken to the benefit to a creative in terms of community. Are there any other tangible things that a creative should expect from a hub other than just the networking and the community from being with other creatives?
I think it's their practice is really changed by it as well. If you're a creative working on your own and you don't have a network or you're not able to connect into anything, you will have a very particular vision for what you do. But if you connect into networks, as in creative hubs, you're going to mix with people that might not necessarily be in the same sector. So what happens when a dancer meets a really amazing tech person, and what really fun collaborations can happen from that? And I think they're the parts that really kind of gave me goosebumps when I loved hearing that people from different sectors were meeting that would never normally meet together before, and were collaborating and doing really innovative projects and programs. And I think that's one of the many nice things that come out of people coming together, and one of the benefits to creative practitioners and businesses.
Absolutely. Actually, for our hub, the focus for the next 3 years is create tech, actually making between the creative economy and the tech people, making those intentional. So yeah, that's what really is exciting as well, you know. So I just wanted to find out, because our ecosystem is quite complex, and I would say disaggregated in terms of policy around the creative economy. What are some ways that you've seen creative hubs work with the private sector and the public sector? And like, what are some of the wins or the success stories that you've seen when they're able to collaborate with corporate and government?
That's a good question. And I think they're always, creative hubs are all the stronger when they can connect into public and private. And public and private are all the stronger when they connect into amazing creative hubs like yours. So I suppose in terms of, well, public sector and private sector have got a lot more money than our sector. However, they don't always necessarily have the solutions to hand. Big thing that I have been really advocating is that maybe more so public sector, you know, government bodies, council bodies, municipalities, if they have really big issues in terms of environment, society, economy, what are those big issues, and how can the creative economy help with that? I.e., how can a creative hub? So for instance, they came to you, Andrea, and said, we have real issues around our economy, we need some interesting thoughts around this. You'd be like, okay, I'll just pull together a think tank of really amazing people from my hub, and we'll come up with some really amazing solutions around this. And if you like them, let's work through them and let's make them happen. And I just think that's such an easy win, you know. And then there'll be budget included in that, you know, and you know, if that comes to fruition, your creators will get paid for it, and you should get a consultation fee as well. So everyone's winning, and the policymakers, council bodies, public sector, private sector have to realise that the creative economy isn't just about making products and services, it's actually about coming up with really innovative solutions to today's problems across the board.
Yes,
you know,
SDGs that we're all struggling with, you know, how do we make our countries more livable places, you know, for our populations? So I think we do have a role to play. It's funny that you mentioned that, because we are having 2 hackathons this year. One, an ideathon, where we're bringing together groups of techies and creatives to, you know, look at real world problems. And then in November, we're doing one focused on crime, because crime is one of the biggest problems that we face. And we figure if we can get our best creative minds and our best tech minds together. So I'll keep you posted on the hackathon. Yeah, but it's exciting times. We're absolutely thinking in the same way, and that's great. I wanted to ask a little bit about the British Council and their hubs program, the Global Hubs program. So where do you have hubs located? Tell us about the different locations, what they're doing, and what's on offer for anybody in the Caribbean who's listening who may want to start another hub.
Yeah. Well, we've been working with hubs since 2013. And within that time, we've probably worked with more than 1,000 hubs across the globe. Now, that could be in partnership, or it could be hubs coming to an event, or it could be hubs actually producing stuff or projects or programs for us around the world, a real mix. So we haven't ever really financially supported creative hubs in terms of startup. Our place has been better suited to helping profile creative hubs, raising the profile and platforms, as well as gathering research evidence tools that might be of use to creative hubs. And I feel that's a better space for British Council's other amazing organisations like HEBOS, and that kind of are able to get a little bit of seed funding, but we haven't. And yeah, we've just been, I think it came from the point that when I was running a creative hub, I felt that there wasn't really a deep understanding of its value. So by going to the public sector, i.e. British Council, I felt that I could maybe make more of a difference within that for creative hubs like yourself, in terms of just raising the profile and making people realise the value of what you all do. So we've been doing a variety of things. We've done a couple of toolkits. We've got a creative hub kit, which was produced a couple of years back actually, but it's still got quite a lot of really valuable information in it. But we've just recently published, well, just last year, like the first ever kind of toolkit for hubs. It's called the Creative Hub Leaders Toolkit, and that is a toolkit that takes emerging creative hubs or established creative hubs through a number of kind of worksheets, and at the end you're meant to have all the kind of pieces that you need in order to inform your business plan, which is, as you know, constantly changing. Once you do a business plan, it's already out of date. So the toolkit is meant to be a tool that you kind of dip in and out of and refresh. So maybe not so much for you maybe you would want to dip into it maybe down the line to just reassess values and missions or stakeholder mapping or theory of change. But someone that was starting up from scratch might want to go through the whole thing. Right. And we're currently digitizing that as well. Yes. Yeah, so we've
resources available on the website. These are all publicly available to anyone.
Yeah, they're all free, downloadable, and the digitized offer will be ready later in the year. But I'll send over the toolkits and links so that you can pass it on to your network.
Awesome, and we'll share it with our network. I'm sure more people are thinking with this whole, working from home and co-working and finding smart ways to work, that people are looking at the value of hubs, even just as co-working spaces for different groups. So this is super useful information. So I wanted to ask just specifically about programming. What have you seen elsewhere that that we should apply to hubs in the Caribbean?
Oh, hubs are really, everyone that runs a hub is really rather amazing. And, Andrea, you're doing everything. You're not just doing you're not just doing events and workshops, you're doing fundraising, you're doing strategy, you're doing sponsorship, you're doing networking, you're doing everything. So you're really working with a creative hub is like almost like a kind of gateway into so much more knowledge that I don't know why people don't work with creative hubs more. Anyway, really interesting things that have come out. There's been quite a few. There was a hub in Birmingham in England called Impact Hub Birmingham. They're not going anymore, unfortunately, run by this amazing girl, Emmy. And they did an initiative called Radical Childcare, which was all about, how do we bring our home life into our work life a little bit more, and how can a creative hub actually support childcare services? And so when you joined this creative hub, you also got a certain number of, it's like a childcare voucher, I suppose, and your child was looked after for a certain amount of hours within that hub. And it was a model that they were really experimenting on. I need to catch up with Emmy on it. But I like the idea of that. What an amazing place for kids to be around creative people at that part of their life. Other models, I'm interested to see what happens in health and well-being. I think there's going to be some really interesting models, especially after this pandemic, coming out of useful things around health and well-being. I've not seen one in particular yet, but I think there will be. And then just, empowering particular groups of people. For instance, in Tunisia, there was an amazing hub called Kojit that started out in order to bring their social entrepreneurs together in order to help design what the future of their country was. Wow. Or there's other hubs that are just safe places for women and children. It's varying examples from kind of, from large scale to small scale, but every hub I've met have all had something really interesting and unique. Some hubs have balanced out their budgets by doing kind of consultancy as well. And Jeanine and I in Creative Edinburgh, we did a little bit of that. But yeah, there's some really crowdsourcing as well. A good friend who runs Creative Dundee in Scotland, Gillian, she crowdsourced thousands of opinions from the city that fed into the City of Culture bid. So their City of Culture bid was informed directly by their people via Creative Dundee. It's called We Dundee, the project. So just there's lots of lovely, really beautiful examples, and that's all the more reason why private and public sector should be connecting with hubs, because there's such innovative thinking, and I think that's the scary part for funders, is that they are very different business models, and so I think they find that scary, when in fact they should turn that on its head and realise that it's unique and really innovative.
Yeah, disruption can be a good thing. We need just a little bit of that disruption to get things moving and to get innovation into our cultures. I really love what you said about the social enterprises. In fact, working more closely with them, and of course the tech sector. I think those are two directions that really will have meaning for what we're doing in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. Lindsay, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Oh no, thanks. This has been so enjoyable, and it's just lovely to connect with you again, Andrea. And I love what you're doing, and I hope the evening is a good one, and we speak really soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lindsay. You take care.
Thank you so much, Andrea and Lindsay, for that amazing conversation, just giving us a global perspective on hubs and how they're working, and even some things that we could look at in the Caribbean, how we can apply to our hubs here. If you're just joining us, this is the Kingston Creative Meetup, and we're talking about creative hubs, connecting the creative community. And if you're online, we'd love for you to share with those who can't be with us right now, some gems that you're hearing in this chat, and you could use the hashtags Creative City and Creative Hubs. And just a reminder that we have a new feature that will allow you to share questions with the hosts, questions with the panelists, I should say, and we'd feed those in, we'll talk about them, and you could go to slido.com, that's SLIDO.com, and you'll enter the code 306910, that's 306910. And there you can have your questions, and we'll be sure to go to them and answer some of those questions for you, because of course, this is a very interactive chat. And as you can see on the screen here, that's slido.com. You could also scan that barcode if you're able to, and just enter the questions that you have, and we'll be going to them throughout the evening to ensure that you're a part of this wonderful conversation. So thank you guys for joining us. And of course, this is a part where we invite our panelists to join us in a big conversation about this creative hub. And this evening, we're talking to Dimitri Dawkins. You met him earlier. He's the entrepreneur development specialist at Kingston Creative. We also have Joel Smith, who is the managing director of the Hub Co-working, Kingston Creative Hub, and if walls could talk. And we have Selwyn Cambridge, who is the founder of 10 Habitat. 10 Habitat is a co-working space focused on developing investor-ready startups by exposing them to different hands-on support that's all about building their businesses. But that's enough of me telling you about all these amazing panelists who are here with me. I'd love to give them an opportunity to talk to us a little bit about what they do and how it is that it feeds into this conversation of hubs. But let's start off by, just defining that question about what are hubs. We're talking about creative hubs and hubs this and hubs that, but what are they really? I think I'd love to hear Joel's perspective on what hubs are. What's that definition that people could take away from that?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Tavia. Wow, okay, so I mean, just to give you a little background in terms of the Hub Co-working, we started out 5 years ago. We were the first co-working space in Jamaica. And I mean, we saw the need to really, create a space where entrepreneurs or freelancers, could have that home that they could work from and that community that they would build. And I think one of the best things about the Hub Co-working and, co-working spaces and creative hubs on a whole is the people element where you really can bring people who wouldn't ordinarily have even met each other, who wouldn't have been, there's no way, I mean, I'm an interior designer. If I have an office, a standalone office, there's no way I'm anticipating that I'm working beside somebody who is an IT professional or working with somebody who runs a tour company. And just to really bring all those people into the same space where they can bounce ideas off of each other, where they can collaborate. I mean, I've seen people come in, they have marketing companies, and, they help to provide those services to, other members within the space. We have, accountants within the space who also provide services. So, I mean, you get to leverage the person sitting next to you. And I think that's really one of the most beautiful things about co-working spaces. I mean, so yes, we also do provide the physical space, and that is important. I mean, you'll see coming out of the pandemic, for argument's sake, having worked from home, I mean, being basically forced to work from home for, a pretty long time,
Feels
almost
like years, huh?
almost 2 years, you realize just how inadequate working from home can be sometimes. I mean, the internet is iffy. The gardener is mowing whenever, in the middle of the day, in the middle of your Zoom call. Not to mention it's summer, it's hot. There's no way you can run your AC all day. That's ridiculous. Your light bill is going to be way more than just getting a membership at the hub. And then of course there's the flip side, going into office every day, and sitting in a cubicle is also not something that is, you don't want to do that every day. And so flexible work is really the happy medium, and that's exactly what co-working spaces provide, the opportunity to be flexible. You get a little bit of the casual atmosphere and the inspiration, especially that a lot of us creatives need in order to come up with ideas. You get the community, and you get the option. You come in when you want to, you don't come in when you want to. You get to leverage the cost benefit of going into a space where that you pay this flat monthly membership fee, you can access a business address, you can really formalize your business and in a structured way without having to work from home, which can be very haphazard, people coming to meet you at your house, people sending mail to your home. You want to be able to separate work and state, church and state, for argument's sake. So,
wow, sorry, go ahead.
Right. So essentially, those are some of the benefits that co-working spaces and creative hubs in particular can really bring to you.
Lovely. So I'm hearing that it offers you this networking facility that you wouldn't have otherwise, meeting different people and collaborating on projects that you may not even thought you would have been able to do those collaborations, and that flexibility to be in a different space to work. From the Kingston creative side, Dimitri, talk to us about, are there other considerations for a hub in terms of the functions of it that Kingston Creative specifically would offer? Are there other things that we could consider in addition to what Joel spoke about?
Yeah, so I mean, just like a co-working hub is a shared space, from the creative hub standpoint, we're a shared platform or ecosystem for all members of the CCI industry to leverage. So when it is that we represent the industry in government engagements or other stakeholder engagement overall, the fact that we can identify gaps in the industry and try to find solutions, such as some of the programs that we have this year and other programs to come to meet those gaps, and just overall to be more supportive from a community development aspect, allowing us to reduce some of the barriers to entry in the creative space, allowing the increased growth, more opportunities, more networking between members, and moving forward from there. So it's definitely, I mean, as the name hub implies, a central point for members to come together, get information, get access to services, get access to opportunities, and use that to scale.
Sounds good. And Selwyn, you have, excuse me, you have named your hub Habitat. I beg your pardon. So tell us a little bit about how that works for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. 10 Habitat is essentially just that, a habitat to cultivate the learning and growth of entrepreneurs and creatives. When we came up with the name, we essentially wanted to replicate an actual habitat found in nature. So our habitat encompasses the 4 key elements, which is food, cover, space, and water. And what we've done is to substitute those to replicate key elements that an entrepreneur or creative would need in order to grow, because we say that entrepreneurs should be nurtured the same way nature nurtures its young in a habitat. And so what we try to do is to create an environment where entrepreneurs are able to have the requisite resources to be able to do so. And, when we talk about a hub, for me, and what we focus on at 10 Habitat is one single word, and that's community. It's really key for creatives to harness the power of community. What we say at 10 Habitat is that once you walk into the space, what happens organically is that learning happens through osmosis, because you're in a space and you're at a different level engaging with someone at another level. And you learn through that engagement. You learn by being in the space. We've seen it happen very naturally, where a creative will come in and have some uncertainty about his or her idea or discipline. And by engaging with someone who might be pretty advanced or in a totally different discipline, they're able to connect some missing dots, and amazing happens. So for us, I think, and for any hub who's doing this amazing work, and I give credit to all of those representing hubs here, it's a key essential to driving innovation and growth. And once we recognize the role that we can play, we can start to have much more of a say in the development of our respective communities and economies. Because, for me, I always say, look, what 10 Habitat is about is driving innovation in every imaginable sector. So it doesn't have to be just entrepreneurship. It can be in any sector. So, not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, but everyone can benefit from entrepreneurial thinking. And so once you can expose that way of thinking, and you can bring persons into an environment where ideas freely flow and healthy debates happen and exchange of experiences occur, it's really a fantastic experience to have. And for 10 Habitat, we run a co-working facility as well, and we run an innovation hub specifically, as well as a coding academy, to be able to equip the persons with the requisite technology skills, but allow creatives and other disciplines, other entrepreneurs pursuing either tech-enabled or fully tech ventures to have access to that talent very easily. So it's really trying to build that ecosystem and then have the wider community benefit from it.
I love that. And I mean, you had mentioned, Joel, that the co-working hub would have been one of the first ones in Jamaica. What would you say would have been the driving force behind that? And then also, why do these matter, these creative hubs? What would you say?
So the hub co-working really came about because I think initially it was sort of not necessarily selfish. That's probably not the word I want to use, but I was an investment advisor for many years, for about 12 years, right? So I worked in corporate, and I decided to leave corporate to focus on my business solely, which is an interior design business. And so at that point, when I made the transition, there were a couple of things that I realized. I had no other friends, or maybe like 2 other friends basically, who were entrepreneurs or who were in the same boat as me. And so I didn't have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of. It was tricky kind of trying to find out, how to do everything on your own, how to register a business, how to, what was this trademark registration about? How do I formalize it and not look like I run in a patty shop? You know, what accounting software do I use? You know, there were a lot of questions and not many people to ask those questions. And I went on a trip and learned of the concept of co-working spaces and thought to myself that this is an amazing idea. You know, this is somewhere I can group people who are like me, like-minded people in one space, you know, sharing facilities, bouncing ideas off of each other. And, you know, I thought it was basically a win-win. So that's really, you know, how the hub co-working was conceptualized. And you had another question after that. I forgot it.
And I wanted to know the benefit of these hubs. You know, why do you think they matter to the creative community? What would you say from your own experience and perspective?
Right. So, well, all those things that I had wanted to fulfill when I started the hub co-working, I've fulfilled them and more. And not only for myself, but for a number of other people. I mean, it's really an awesome experience to see a company come in, you know, really as a startup, basically, and outgrow our facilities to the point where they now need their own space. And that has happened a number of times with the hub. And that means that we're doing something right. You know, you actually get to really benefit, you get to harness all the growth potential, and then you actually get to grow, you get to scale your business. And I think it creates that opportunity for creatives, for entrepreneurs, for business people, you know, whoever you are, to just really leverage the facilities that are there so that they can help you grow your business.
Lovely, amazing. And I'm so happy it worked out for you, Joel. And I'm sure other persons here are listening and say, wow, these are some things that I want to do and I don't know who to ask. I don't know how to connect. I don't know where to start. And I think this is a perfect segue to you, Dimitri, because you talked about the hub in our chat earlier, offering business registration and incubators and things like that. I mean, what would you say are some of the necessary things that creatives would want to know, or hubs should be sharing with creatives when they're offering business support? You know, some of the things even mentioned by Joel. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, first off, to just more of a hand-holding process to support entrepreneurs. It seems very scary, as Joel mentioned, especially when you first start and you don't have your personal network or ecosystem to support you. And you know, being a member of you know, the Kingston Creative Hub, or just in the community overall, you then get more support, and that's what we're there for, to make it easier, to allow you to focus on your creativity, which is your business itself, and less on, say, more of that admin or back end, not the admin and back end work, but admin and back end worry or fear that you don't understand and you don't know what you're doing. And so that's what we really want to do, is like empowerment and capacity building. And we do that through our programming, the different programs available, and through our constant like feedback, like even polls like the ones happening in this session today, so that we can look at the data afterwards and say, this is what we need to do to help creatives in the industry.
Lovely. I mean, are there any specific services that creatives are asking for from the hubs, from your, you know, experience? Is there anything specific they're saying, hey, can you teach me this, or this is what I want to know? What has been that thing that people are asking for more?
Yeah, so we've had quite a large amount of training requests coming through, and we've actually partnered with the Heart Trust NTA to offer a full training program. And that's related to different types of skills overall. We also have our business accelerator program specifically for business skills going forward. And then another thing that everybody's always asking about is like financing opportunities, and how is it that we attract funding, which we have to take as a multi-phased approach. Number one being, of course, formalization, making sure that everybody is registered as a business or registers their IP assets. And then subsequently that, you know, good records keeping and other best business practices, so that way they are attractive to investors or financiers overall. So it's quite a wide range of services that's required, but it's not that everyone needs to access everything. There's just, we have something to meet your immediate need. And so, you know, have that conversation with us, look at what's available on the website, and just start off with that one thing. You don't have to try to tackle everything all at once. It's a phase by phase, step by step basis, and you just have to start somewhere.
Okay, because that was my next question. I'm a creative, and I know I need some things, but I don't know where to start. So, do I come in and say, hey, Dimitri, I have this, I'm a creative, I create these things. What advice would you give me? Like, how does the process actually work? Because if I don't know, can you help me to know?
Right. So following our COVID safety protocols, I'd advise most people to check the website first and say, what current programs there are, the additional information available. And all of those include registration links for how to access these services. If you just want general help, you can come into office or give us a call and speak to our community ambassador. We'll be happy to give you more information. We also have a just contact us form on the website, which we diligently check on a daily basis. It's not that you respond and it goes off to Never Land. There's actually somebody there responding. We also have partners that we're working with that are more aware of what it is that we're doing. So if you do end up with, say, going to Companies Office of Jamaica to sign up and you're facing some challenges, then Companies Office or other partners can refer you back to us at Kingston Creative as well. So to short summary, check the website first, and then secondary option, come in and check us out at the Hub Co-working downtown, and we can help you out and go from there.
Love that. Selwyn, I want you to, also share with us a little bit about, the 10 Habitat and, what are some of the offerings that persons can access from there. I know you mentioned it's focusing on developing investor-ready startups. What does that mean in simple terms for persons who could benefit from it, but does not necessarily understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So before I go to that, if we can step back a bit and just understand why the focus, right? So in the region, we've suffered from a classic trade that continues to be perpetuated, unfortunately, and that's the trade of producing lifestyle businesses, right? And it's unfortunate that we've actually built an entire structure around building lifestyle businesses where someone quits a job to create another job for themselves. And we call that entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, that's not entirely investable. And so what we try to do is to first address mindsets, because that's part of the biggest challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives face. Because even in the world of the creative and cultural industries, we've got an immensely talented cadre of practitioners, but don't understand fully the business side of their art and how they can turn that into something amazing that becomes much bigger than themselves. And so what we focus a lot on is first this simple statement of fix your brain and then your business will follow, right? So how can we start to address a different type of thinking in the entrepreneur, in the creative, that starts to see their talent, right, their idea as something more than just a job or something to earn an income, something that has legacy, something that has growth, something that has the ability to become investable. So we build a lot of programming around that, and then we start to layer on top of that foundation the building blocks to develop a structure that allows them to have an idea turn into an investable venture, that they can now speak the language, they can attract the type of value, and they can command the level of respect that they need in order to have the kinds of discussions where persons take them seriously and they can have the type of financing that they're looking for. You know, the number one question for every creative, every entrepreneur is funding, right? So what's your biggest problem? It's access to funding. It's funding. And the truth is, for us, it's not that. I mean, what we've seen is there are two biggest challenges entrepreneurs and creatives feel, and one is the inability to execute on their ideas, and two, it's the poor access to effective networks. Hubs help to solve that, right? So hubs bring people together, expose them to a wider network, a more resource network, and teach them how to execute on their ideas, because money follows well executed ideas, right? And once we can do that, and then we can put them in front of persons with resources and networks to bring the missing elements together, we start to produce something that's far more meaningful. So what we do is we build a lot of programming, and when we started 10 Habitat, one of our primary focuses was trying to build a fairly effective and well-resourced network that we can expose entrepreneurs and creatives to. And so what we did was we sought to build linkages with every major startup ecosystem across the globe. So we're connected to all of them. And what we do is, once that entrepreneur comes in, or that individual who has a creative flair is trying to explore an idea, just an idea, if the skills don't sit specifically with 10 Habitat, it's easy for us to just reach out to our network, connect that entrepreneur with that skill set, and then help them to build on top of that. That's also the power of hubs, right? That's the and you know, we're talking about creative hubs, but the truth is they're just hubs. Once you get a hub, it can do anything. It can be agnostic. It can, and I'm far more partial to hubs that bring multiple disciplines together, because that's where the magic really happens, right? We tend to, and I see this a lot happening with creatives, where they tend to just group with their own, right? So they group like with like, and the truth is, if you want to build diversity, you want to drive innovation, you got to step out of your comfort zone and connect with persons in ways that you never thought were possible, or you never saw the relevance. Because, you know, it's this thing, and I say it again, it's learning through osmosis. You put people in a room from different backgrounds, different disciplines, and you will be amazed at what happens when they start to connect. And so we just try to facilitate that, provide the infrastructure to build the systems, and then get the hell out of the way.
And I love, you know, what you shared in terms of just looking at mindset first too, just how their outlook on, you know, building their own businesses, or just how they approach it. I mean, how do creatives, you know, how does that process actually work? Like, I'm a creative who I want to be able to have an idea that I want to be able to be investable, but I may not have the right outlook. Of course, I don't necessarily know that I have the right outlook. How does that look when I come to a Kingston Creative Hub or a 10 Habitat? What does that process look like for me? For those who may be listening in and who may want to experience that, but don't know how to actually start off.
Well, for 10 Habitat, what I would say is what that looks like is the first thing we do is we actually run a diagnostic on the entrepreneur, and to be able to understand the person and the driving forces behind why they're doing what they're doing, right? If it turns out, look, I'm just doing this because I think I can make a lot of money from it, that's an immediate red flag, right? Because what happens is that when the money doesn't come, then they jump ship, right? Because they've got entirely the wrong motivation. Money comes as a byproduct of doing something really well and solving a problem really well. So we try to get the entrepreneur into a mindset where I start to think about why I'm really doing this. And to be quite honest, in those initial stages, a lot of the work that we do is about 80% counseling and 20% business building, because we need to get the entrepreneur ready for what the journey will entail. 10 Habitat was birthed out of my own experience. I mean, starting a business and starting many businesses many years ago, it's horrible. I mean, no one can tell me that starting a business is a cakewalk and it's lovely to do and you'll have the best time of your life. No, you won't. It's hard as heck. And so once you understand that, look, this is not a bed of roses, now I need to build a mental fortitude to face these challenges, right? And a lot of creatives suffer from this imposter syndrome, right? Where they don't think they're ready, they don't think they're good enough, and that gets in the way of them really progressing, because a lot of, I'm sure everyone on this call have seen it or experienced it at some stage, right? You listen to a creative or you put a creative in a room and it's as if they're apologizing for what they're about to ask. You don't need to. I mean, you bring value to the table, understand what that value is, and then start to speak from that perspective. So every entrepreneur, regardless of who you are, you bring value to the table. So if you're talking to a prospective sponsor, you're talking to an investor, you're talking to a partner, strategic partner, any type of donor or any organization that you're looking to get something from, hell, they're looking to get something from you too. So understand that you bring value to the table, and it's really dealing with those types of thinking that we place a lot of emphasis on. And you start to see the change. You start to see them talking differently. You start to see them reacting differently. And you start to address this thing we call trust, or the ability to trust. I remember when we first opened our doors, entrepreneurs were so skeptical about talking about their ideas, about sharing what they're working on. And because of our focus, we broke down those barriers. And now when someone walks into our space or engages in one of our virtual sessions, they openly discuss what they're working on, because they recognize it's more or less a safe space. It's a space where persons are openly discussing what they're trying to achieve. And the thing is, you never know where the next great supporter idea will come from. So the fact that you want to keep it to yourself is just a disservice to your idea and your pursuit.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And I mean, Dimitri, I see you are agreeing with a lot of what he is sharing. And I'd love to hear from you how that translates in the Kingston Creative Hub in terms of even some of the services that are offered to help creatives with that mindset and that outlook.
Right. So just to echo what Selwyn was saying, there are lifestyle entrepreneurs and then entrepreneurs that want to scale. And for Kingston Creative, we're trying to serve both because the fact is that there is huge economic benefit for supporting both entrepreneurs. Yes, one is going to have a larger impact than the other, but from a sustainability aspect overall, we believe that everyone should have access to opportunities, etc. And so we are catering to both sides of the market through our programs. So if you want to scale internationally and have that bigger vision, definitely come and participate in our accelerator program going forward, or our investor, B2B investor meetings, stuff like that. But then at the same time, if it is that you just want to figure out what business is, like you're not there yet, you're trying to understand what the basics are, then you participate in our business registration drive, you participate with our training programs with Heart, you participate in monthly meetup sessions like these, and some of our other activities to sort of get you along that journey, because not everyone is ready at the same time. And so no matter where you are in your journey, we have different product and service offerings for you to just, as I say, it's more about, making yourself feel at ease mentally, and that it's not just this entire flurry of everything is new, everything is causing anxiety, everything is causing stress, and it's too much to process. Take your time, access the services, follow the roadmap that we have in place, and when you're ready, then scale. But in the meantime, educate yourself, build capacity, and just practice and apply the principles that we're sharing and the content that we're making available to you to make life easier.
Love that. And I mean, we're talking a lot about ensuring that this kind of mindset fosters innovation and entrepreneurship. From your perspective, Joel, from what you've seen, how do you think, hubs have really helped creatives to foster this feeling or this drive of innovation and, going towards entrepreneurship? Have you seen that in your own experience?
So, to start with, creatives, we're so good at what we do that I think our right brain is overdeveloped. And so what happens is that when it comes to running a business, the things like operations and, admin and that kind of thing, even just follow up, running through emails, that's not the part that we love. The average creative is operating a creative business because they love what they do and they have the passion for it and they have the knack for it. And that's what's keeping them going. That's what's keeping them alive. So I think going into an environment like a creative hub sort of allows you to develop the other things that you wouldn't necessarily be so keen on doing.
And that are important for scalability too and sustainability.
Because there's no way you can just, we all know that creative, we all have that one friend who is just so talented. But when it comes down to committing to, delivering something on time or sending out an invoice. I have done business with creatives who they have worked their heart and soul. They don't sleep, right? They produce something amazing and then you have to run them down to pay them. That's insane. And it's because the financial part of their business is just not important because they're doing what they love. But at the end of the day, to scale your business, you have to be able to manage both. And if you can't do it yourself, that's not the aim. Is to scale also in terms of resources within your business. So you are not supposed to be the person at the end of the day doing everything, right? You find the resources who can facilitate those things, but you still have to have the knowledge. You need to know what's important, how to get things done, even if you are not the person who is doing it. And so, going into a creative hub environment really allows you to scale your business in the right way.
Love it. And of course, we've been talking a lot about networking and meeting with people and the different ideas and thoughts. And that's where that also comes in, which you mentioned. If you are not doing it, at least you have an opportunity to network with someone who can, or who is way more skilled at it than you are, but you need to appreciate that it's important for your business to survive.
And a lot of this happens so organically. So, it's outside of, the structured accelerator programs and training sessions, etc. Just chatting with the person next to you, you can learn so much about, something that you could have been doing and vice versa. Especially as Selwyn, I think, mentioned, everybody is operating at a different level within the space. And so, by talking to everyone else around you, you're able to grow organically just from that without even having to, formally learn anything.
Yeah. And I think it's a good time for us to see what are some of the questions that persons are probably asking of us. But before we even jump to that, we're talking a lot about creatives and in creative hubs, but Selwyn also said, listen, it's just a hub. It's a hub. And now we know that with the pandemic and all of that, remote work, freelancers, a lot of people are going to these hubs and a lot of them are experiencing these different things that they have to offer. What do you guys think? After the pandemic, do you think now it's a case where people won't probably want to go back to the office and there will now be an influx into these hubs? What are our projections on this? What do you think?
Right. So we've actually been seeing it. If you look at WeWork, for example, their last quarter was better than their quarter pre-pandemic. People are excited about the fact that now this hybrid option is exactly what they want to use. A lot of people, I was listening to a podcast recently and, they were highlighting some numbers of people who are actually leaving their jobs if, they are required to come back into office because, the flexibility, everybody got accustomed to it, and that's what they like. And so we are going to see quite a bit more usage of spaces like, the Creative Hub, co-working spaces, because people want the flexibility, and you don't always want to be in one place all the time.
True. And with that influx, we're gonna probably see different people, not necessarily creatives. Of course, Selwyn, you talk about the fact that you love hubs that bring everybody together, that we can all be able to work. I mean, Dimitri, how do you see that working for the Kingston Creative Hub with this kind of influx?
Well, I mean, the flexibility, as Joel said, is just the key, right? The fact that you can pop in, pop out, meet people at ad hoc times. I know that humans are social, even if you don't like a lot of socializing, you need a little bit from time to time. And so it's good to just jump in, maybe ad hoc meet someone, or just even use the space as a backup for if you're having challenges at home with heat, internet, any other issues that you might face, maybe noise because the weed whacker is going on outside. And it's through that connectivity or networking at that point that you start having sort of spin-off effects of collaboration and joint ventures and other elements like that. Plus the fact that it inspires you. You meet someone else that is a little further down the road, then it inspires you to learn a little more about something or learn about something else, and it keeps you motivated. So especially as we all ease back into a more social environment, as vaccination increases, or we have trust safety protocols, some more things like that, then therefore I think it's going to have a huge effect for the creative community. And that co-working spaces, hubs, accelerator programs, etc., are definitely the point of intersection for a lot of these opportunities.
Love that. Selwyn, what's your thought on how it will work post-pandemic?
Yeah, well, I guess the million-dollar question is there ever going to be post-pandemic, right? So
thanks for bringing up that elephant.
That's all right. It's just the new normal, right? But what I would say is that, and I've been saying this to every entrepreneur we've interacted with, is never let a good crisis go to waste, right? And what we're starting to see, and it will continue, is we are going to see a wider embrace of hubs, of co-working spaces, because a lot of those persons who recognize the flexibility of working from home have also recognized the ability to work from anywhere, including large corporations who've had these massive overheads of supporting large offices with staff in them, and realize, hell, I don't need to do that anymore. And what we're starting to see is the elevation of the gig economy, right? So where a lot of persons are realizing, I don't necessarily need to work for anyone. I can work for many people doing small jobs. And all I need is a space that allows me to build connections, to network, to have a reliable source of internet and connectivity that I can service a varied and diverse clientele. You look in the US and even in the UK, a lot of these companies that are coming out of lockdown are struggling to maintain staff levels because they can't attract the staff back into the workforce because they've moved on to different things. And what we start to see is an opportunity, I believe, for a lot of creatives in the sector and a lot of creatives in the region to leverage those global opportunities that are available to them. And the amazing thing is that Hubs provides the perfect foundation for them to do that really well. Because you as a designer can connect with a videographer that connects with a copywriter that connects with a social media manager, and you guys have a quasi little company that you can now service a diverse amount of people, and you can do it from within a hub or a co-working space. I think that when we start to think global, we start to see a difference in the mindset, and we start to see a difference in how we can really begin to use the pandemic to our advantage.
Definitely, definitely. And it's now a good time to see what are some of the questions our friends have posed for us on Slido. If it would be possible for us to bring up some of those questions on screen, and we could just, free flow talk about them. And for those of you who are wondering what Slido is, if you joined us afterwards, you can enter some questions on slido.com, enter the code 306910, and there we can take your questions and have some discussion. So I'm just gonna run them straight off the bat. Anyone can grab it. The first question is the Hub Downtown open to any creative who would like to use the space? I've never been there before. I guess that one is for you, Dimitri.
Yeah, the hub is open. They have hot desks available, so you can just come in and get access to a hot desk pending availability, and just use it. Yeah, anytime. You can call ahead as well if you would like to confirm that there's space available. Lovely. And Joel, this is a question and answer for you, because the question is, which of the hub locations do you like the most, and why is it the Kingston Creative Hub in downtown?
That's a good question. I like them both for different reasons. The Kingston Creative Hub downtown, so what it does provide is, it has a podcast studio for, let's say I wanted to record a video, or, for that YouTube channel that I've been working on mentally, and I just haven't gotten around to it, to launching it yet. But, it has that. It has a meeting room that converts into a photography studio as well. So I can actually do my product shoots there. I can get my headshot done. And then it also has, different meeting nooks. So let's say I just wanted to have a one-on-one quickly with, a team member. They're just different spaces that I can use. So I am the type of person who likes to move around a lot while I'm working. So I'll start working at the hot desk, and then I'll end up in the creativity nook, or the swing, just because as a creative, I just really need a little change in environment from time to time. So I think that would be the benefit really that would be the plus for working at the downtown location. And then even just to walk outside, when you just want to breeze out a little bit, you can, go downstairs for lunch. We're right above our restaurant, which is amazing. And I think that's also another plus for that location. And then you can just take a stroll, right along Water Lane where all the murals are. And it can give you, the inspiration that you might be looking for just to get back into that get your creative juices flowing. So
love it. All right. Well, the next question is, what would you recommend to creatives who are just coming into the space as it relates to networking and building or growing in the industry? So maybe I can jump this one over to Selwyn.
I would say just have an open mind, right? When you come into a space, be prepared to engage with people and have open discussions and conversations about what you're working on or what they're working on, and just seek to be of value to someone. Sometimes we're so caught up in what we're doing that we're trying to see what we can get as opposed to what we can offer. So just seek to offer value to someone, and you realize how much they'll repay you in exchange for that value you provide. So I would say that the first thing is focus on having an open mind.
Lovely. The other question is, what do you think will happen after the pandemic? Oh, I actually asked this in our discussion. So maybe we can go to another question. Okay. Joe, what's the cost of membership at the hub? I guess you could mention the co-working as well as Kingston Creative, if there are any general costs that people need to consider.
So we actually, on purpose, both locations have the same cost. And then you can also sign up for a joint membership, which would allow you to use either location whenever you wanted to. And the membership starts at $16,000 a month. And then we go into, let's say, office membership that's at $50,000 a month, and that's your own dedicated space where you can have a number of team members working from that space. And of course, we have drop-in rates where you can just pay $500 per hour to just sit at a hot desk for a little bit. You can use our meeting rooms, and those start between both locations at $2,000 per hour. And then we have a business address service, which a lot of people utilize, particularly during the pandemic, because you needed a space for your mail to get to, particularly if you closed down your office and you weren't working from there anymore. Also, it facilitates, let's say you have someone who needs to pick up something, or you want to leave something for somebody to collect. So it really is also that type of hub as well. And that starts at $2,000 a month, and you pay for the first year with that service as well. The podcast room starts at $2,000 as well. So, very reasonable prices, and everything is available. You can actually book a space. You can pay for a service right on our website, which is hubcoworkingja.com.
Lovely, lovely. All right. Are you located only in Kingston? And that would be for, both you, Dimitri and Joel, for the co-working, as well as I could also ask you, Selwyn, for 10 Habitat. I know they didn't ask that, but you could share the locations as well.
Oh, we're just located in Barbados for now. We are in, I guess you call it central. It's in the Wildy area. We recently moved. We were in central Bridgetown, and we recently gave up that building because we purchased a new building, and now we're refurbishing that building to open a much larger and more diverse co-working space. So that happens in the next couple of months. So the first co-working space in Bridgetown, it was 8,000 square feet, and now we're moving into a 20,000 square foot facility with a lot more diverse offerings for entrepreneurs. So we're pretty excited by that.
Very cool. Dimitri and Joel, they want to know, are you outside of Kingston? Are you coming soon?
So for now, we are located only in Kingston, and we have one location at Lady Musgrave, and Creative Hub is downtown on Harbor Street, above Swiss Stores. But expansion is always on the horizon, so we'll definitely keep everyone posted if we do have another.
Okay.
Just to add on, for the programs that we're offering through Kingston Creative, many of them are going to be hybrid, with online being the first option and having a secondary option of actually being in person at the Hub Co-working downtown. So if you want to access any of our services, such as like the business registration driver or IP registration campaign right now, or like the accelerator program and other things like that, a large amount of them will be online. So no matter where you are in Jamaica, you can still access these services.
Oh, that is amazing information. So guys, you don't need to actually come to the physical space to be able to be a part of the offerings. That's actually very, very good. Let's see if there are any other questions. All right. Well, that seems to be, is it the last question? Mm-hmm. Yes, it seems so. We're gonna also encourage persons who are here with us, if you have other questions that you wanna throw to the panelists, feel free to do it. And feel free to also network in the chat. We are like a live hub here tonight. So feel free to talk to each other, share contacts so you guys can connect, and we can definitely have conversations outside of here. But this was a very, very fruitful conversation, giving us a good idea of, what a hub is, what a creative hub is, how beneficial it is for creatives. And we definitely heard that, listen, collaboration, innovation, entrepreneurship, and much more. These are very critical skills that creatives need for their businesses to scale and to flourish and keep going. So we really appreciated our wonderful panelists for sharing all of that information with us. And before we wrap, I want to ask each of you to share, what is that one or two things that you would love for those who are listening to us tonight to take away from this evening? Anyone can start.
Ladies first.
Yeah, I would say so.
Joe, they picked on you.
2 things to take away. Wow, I feel like there were so many takeaways, to be honest. But I would want you to just, have an appreciation that you are not alone. I think a lot of times we try to go it alone and, we're like, yes, I can do this all by myself. But, that's not the best way to go about it. And I think, that's exactly why we are here. We are here so that you don't have to do it by yourself. And I think that would really be what I want you to leave with. And also, I completely forgot to mention that we have a dance studio, so that would be takeaway number 2. So we actually have another a very large space that, if you wanted to do a video shoot, you could do it there as well. But it is an entire dance studio that you can also book through Kingston Creative Hub.
Lovely. All right, gentlemen, over to you.
So for me, I guess the takeaway would be this belief in self, right? I think that as entrepreneurs, as creatives, we need to understand the power that we hold within our ability to create and make something out of nothing, and then add value to that. And once we recognize that there's tremendous value in that talent, we need to start to adjust our thinking to suit. Once we do that, we'll see doors open for us. I cannot emphasize how important it is for anyone looking to be part of a hub, anyone looking to pursue a creative discipline, anyone looking to take their creative discipline and transform it into a business and into an investable venture, that the first step is to work on your thinking. Because if your thinking is not right, the result will not be right.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Joel and Selvin said, the not going it alone, or that you're not alone, and then to adjust your thinking. The fact of the matter is that you have to be patient and just appreciate where you are right now, and that you have to take things one step at a time, and you can't do everything at once. And understand that this is a very long journey, and there may be many pitfalls along the way, but as well, be open to collaboration and reach out to others, get support from others, and leverage hubs, creative hubs, like 10 Habitat, like Kingston Creative and others, so that way you have the support that you need to scale and grow and take it at your own pace on a day-by-day basis, and go from there. But if it's one thing that the pandemic has taught us, is definitely patience and being able to just nurture and love yourself as is, and understand that yes, you have ambitions, big goals overall, but the fact is not everything is attainable overnight.
Love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you guys so much for sharing these gems with us. We now have a big appreciation for creative hubs and just for hubs in general, and how we can make use of them to, build our businesses or build our mindsets, which is so crucial to ensuring that what we have in our minds can actually translate into something of value. So thank you guys so much for sharing with us. I see in the chat where the Creative Hub has shared some of their costs for even, different persons who want to consider using those services. So you can please feel to grab that and save it for future. So thank you guys so much for joining us for the Kingston Creative Meetup, where we talked about the hub. I always love these conversations because we always leave with action items. we know at the end of the day, this is what I need to do for the next step. So I really appreciate these conversations and for you sharing your knowledge with us. So thank you very much for joining us for this meetup. And of course, you can watch the video again. If there are some points that you didn't catch or you want to make note of, it's on Kingston Creative's YouTube channel. Feel free to jump on there, watch it, pause it, play it, write down what you need to write down. And of course, these guys are available. I'm throwing you guys out there to the crowd, Joel, Selin, and Dimitri. They're available to answer some questions that you may have, or concerns, or learning from their own experiences of how they have used hubs to their benefit. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And we